to show that nothing has changed. Allah's sunnah never changes. The human nature doesn't change. The plot of shaitan never changes. So what exactly has changed?
Nothing.
You see, we are misled. And I will come back to this theme. And this is the theme of what is today. This is the summary that I'm doing today. So paleontology is the study of ancient fossils and all these things. It has a lot of, remember that is a historical science, is not an experimental science. In that case that, I cannot recreate a dinosaur. I cannot recreate the Big Bang. It only happened once. In fact, very simple thing, I cannot even recreate my birth. I'm born only once. So if you want me to give you the details of my birth, I can't. So there's a fundamental difference between historical science and experimental science, and people confuse these two, and then they talk about these things. There are some. These are one of the sources of paleontology is molecular clock. This will be, I can't discuss on molecular clocks right now. But if a clock is wrong, then everything will be wrong. These are some of the sources of evidence for paleontology. Look at what this person is saying. He says, while exact assignment of trace fossils to their makers is generally impossible. Then what is possible then? When you put this kind of disclaimers in between, it's just to confuse people. It's just, when you go to the car sales dealership, $300 or more. That more is written in so small that with my 20/20 vision, you will not be able to see it, right? So we have also another thing called index fossils. I'll come to the index fossil very soon, and see these are fossils by which you know what is an index, right? You try to get idea of how old or things are based on these fossils. History of paleontology is very interesting. So there were actually two people who were very, and just here, paleontology, these bones, people think that we only discovered them in 19th century. No. People, the Chinese knew them, the Hindus knew them, the Greeks knew them, the Romans knew them, the Muslims knew them. Ibn Sina had a whole theory of what these bones represent. For almost 300 years, that was the accepted theory. It is only in the 16th century, during the Age of Enlightenment, things started changing. And then we started thinking, dinosaurs started coming out of these bones. This word was invented in 1822. Paleontology never existed. That word didn't exist. So give you example, again reiterate, selfie. Did this word exist like 3 years ago? No. It has come into existence because of a socio-technical reason. Same thing, paleontology didn't exist by itself. It came into being with a socio-cultural scientific, process. So, people are mesmerized by these words. So, I'll come to the Bone Wars. The Bone Wars is a very interesting period of the paleontological history of paleontology. They were basically two eminent scientists, Bone and Marsh, in North America, and they wanted to outdo each other, and they were discovering bones after bones and after bones, and making dinosaurs out of all of them, and they hated each other. So, like one example is one of them made a mistake. Instead of thinking of putting the bone of the dinosaur as a tail, he put it as a neck. And that mistake was discovered by the other guy, and he made a mockery out of it. So these are the kind of mistakes these people make. We'll come to another mistake. I'm going to skip all the rest of the mistake because it's in the previous lectures. Brontosaurus never existed.
Really?
Never existed. Then it came back. You know how Brontosaurus came back into existence? Bono Marsh discovered a fossil in Colorado. He discovered a bunch of fossils. So he wanted to make a full skeleton. What people don't understand is fossils are never discovered in whole piecemeal. Okay? You get fragments. Sometimes you only get one piece of bone, finger bone, that's it. And then the whole story is constructed out of there. So Brontosaurus was discovered by Bono Marsh. I don't know whoever. I can't remember who is this. Marsh. Yes. So in a hurry, he discovered two other skulls. So he placed one skull on the other one, and lo and behold, Brontosaurus came into existence. People found out that this was the wrong skull. I don't know whether it is true or bad. Anyway, so Brontosaurus. That's how Brontosaurus. These are some huge mix-ups in paleontology that existed. You know, this is Elsamosaurus is another good example where they discovered a canine tooth. You know.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
I mean, the bone becomes it's a calcium phosphate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's buried in soil or in sand or between stones for million, 2 million, 10 million, 30, 40, 50, 60 million years, how can you, I know there's a process goes on of formation of stones and, you know, so how they separate from soil to bone?
Yeah,
How do they separate?
that is it. I
They
understand
just
your question.
carve out of their
Yeah,
mind
so
that okay, this much should be like.
yeah, the question itself, how to interpret that fossil. What your question is generally for everyone is how do you interpret something that has embedded in for say 60 million years, and that remember one thing people always forget: the fossil skeleton itself you cannot date. It is the rocks that you date. So you know the interpretation of these things. Like I said, it's open to question, but that's a different topic altogether. Okay. So this is another. A tooth was discovered in Nebraska. Okay, and then this whole figure was drawn up
Out of the tooth.
out of that tooth, out of that single tooth. Let me emphasize that. Just that tooth had that figure.
Sherlock Holmes is going to get a heart attack.
Sherlock Holmes would be, like saying, I'm out of a job. so, and what was found out, and this was in Nebraska, man and woman, whatever, and what was found out? It turned out to be an ancient pig. You know, these are things that no evolution book will carry for you, okay? And you know, you have, comes to what Brother Fawad was pointing out. On this side, you see this is the pictures of Mongolian gods, and this is actual recreation of the fossil bone. So which is driving what? I'm not sure at this point. You get what I'm saying?
Carving out of stone.
See, this is what the Mongolians draw as their goddesses, gods and goddesses. Now, this is a paleontologist recreating a bone that is found in the sand or in these rocks. This recreation is very similar, looks very similar to this. So is this driving the recreation? I
saw a video where, you know, they normally they show you in movies that they have a very soft brush and they're just wiping the dust away out of, and fresh bone comes out.
Okay. Yeah,
right?
That's not a bone. That's the rock coming out. You don't want to destroy the etchings there.
So I saw a quick video. That in that video, it was shown that this is not the case, and you have to actually carve it out from a stone.
So yeah, we will address that some other time. Look here. These are how interpretations of fossils have changed. This is how initially Brontosaurus looked like. This is how it looks like now. Here are 10 of them. This is how Megalosaurus looked like, and now this was the first creation. This is how it looks like now. Okay, look at how this was a squat iguanodon looked like initially. Now it looks like this. Look at this one. This is how it was depicted. Now it changed to this, and it has changed to that now. This is how Megalosaurus looked like, and this is how it changed. Now it has changed to this now. Look at this. This is how it looked. Look at this.
So it's all imagination.
I am not going to answer that question. You guys decide for yourself. Okay. So anyway, this is how T-Rex initially looked like, and now after Jurassic Park, it looks like this. Okay, and I can continue. I mean, I have dozens and dozens of these things, so I'm not even going to go into all this detail. Let's look at human fossils. Human fossils, like this one here, which is called Sahelanthropus. Okay, this is, we have discovered this fossil. How many? What is the extent of this fossil? 5 pieces of jaw and some teeth. 5 pieces of a jaw and some teeth is going to tell you everything. You're just like me. You take one of my bones, okay, forensic, and then you create my name, my habits, my work habits, my parents, just out of those bones. Can you do that? Probably. I think they are good, great scientists. I don't know. Same thing with here. This is one of the most extant hominin species. This is like a very big one. I mean, I don't know whether it's part of the same species or individuals. Let's see the evidence. Let's look at where's Lucy? Where did Lucy go? Okay, here Lucy is the most famous. Everybody, I mean, I don't think anybody who has gone through college has not heard of Lucy. Okay, what was found in Lucy? A baboon bone was found in Lucy. Now, let's put a context here. If an alim had just made a mistake, or a scriptural mistake was found, you know what would have happened? Each and every one of you would have known, that ayah, that verse is wrong. It used to be this and it is now that, and blah 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 blah. How many people know that a baboon bone was found in Lucy? If one is found, how am I sure that the others are not actually baboon bones or alligator bones or whatever? I mean, I'm skeptical, so I'm making fun of it, but I'm serious about it. How many of you knows this? My daughter was being told certain things, and she's in grade 3 or grade 4, and it's really unfortunate. I was just wondering, what is going to happen to our kids? And my wife said, you better stop. So, so this is the reality of Look at this. There was a big problem here. How did Lucy die? And this is, they said she died because she fell off the tree. Okay?
Which tree?
Okay. In fact, other scientists, forget about, I don't even want to interject our beliefs here, or our values here. In fact, they are pretty convinced that the paper is utterly wrong. It's not even saying mistake. It's saying it's completely wrong. And the sad part is Muslims, since we are we're talking in this context, are ready to take a position on this thing. When science and scientists are not confident of their own position, why should we bother taking a position? Is that a valid argument or not? What do you think, Brother Mahfooz?
Yeah, it's a valid argument. Yeah.
I think once you decide your story, then we will give you an answer, right?
It's not stable, all this, because it constantly changes. Whereas, like, what we believe in doesn't change. It's always been the same.
It shouldn't change. We'll come to why it is happening this way. Let's look at more. Another myth that is created, homology. The chimpanzees and the human beings have 99 point whatever percentage of DNA is similar. Let me ask you, this wood and me are 100% similar. Is that a fact? No. Is that a fact? Is a fact. Logically, empirically, is a fact. The electrons that make up this table and the electrons that make me are exactly the same, according to science. So does that make me and the table same?
Rather, one theory, the same electron.
Well, we'll go to that. Does that make me and the table the same? Nobody challenges this. Somebody actually was having a discussion with me, a few years back, and he asked me to say, we are 99%. I said, what? this chair and me are the same. Am I the same? He said, well, what are you talking? This is not science. I said, what is not science here? Tell me. These electrons here, the atoms that make up this table or this coffee pot or these glasses or this are the same as myself. So we are 100% same.
So that's the belief. When I'm talking to my tenant, he's saying I believe on carbon.
What is carbon?
Carbon means if we die, whatever happened, we could become in the next form is either.
That's fine. That's fine. So, but the question that is later. Point is the computer and me the same thing? Can I come out of the computer or the computer? So
I'm sure about computer, but not about you.
okay, the species problem.
Wow.
This is another species. This is a problem in the philosophy of biology. You can define a species. You are talking about evolution of a species moving from one space to another, but you can't define what a species is. There are 26 recognized species concepts. So which one are we going to talk about? So I'm not going to go into the details on that. I will just make this quotation, these two quotations, and then I will go. This is Arthur Eddington, the most eminent physicist after Einstein. Okay, he was a very close friend of Einstein. He said, "We have found a strange footprint on the shores of the unknown. We have devised profound theories, one after another, to account for its origin. At last, we have succeeded in constructing the creature that made the footprint, and lo, it is our own." Can you see the irony in this quotation? You understand this quotation?
Yeah, of course.
So, and this is how T.S. Eliot, one of the most important poets of the last century, the American poets, he says, "We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time." So this is the metaphysical concept of modern education. So I'm going to skip this part here and quickly go to what we want to present today here. So here, I would like to emphasize here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in many places, this is just a small selection, there is no equality between belief and unbelief. Belief is distinct, unbelief is distinct, and there is no equality. He says, is you a clear proof from his Rabb, like those from the evildoers that they have modified for themselves? How can they be equal? How can they be equal? No. Is he who goes groping on his face rightly more guided, or who walks straight on the Sirat al-Mustaqim? No. Allah Ta'ala further says, they follow their lusts, their desires, their hawa. Allah Ta'ala says, and in their hawa, they make conjectures. Conjecture is not the same thing as truth. They make conjectures. And remember what we started with? Shaitan, 4 promises. Shaitan has made their sinful acts beautiful to them. Right? And they are now wandering to and fro, blindly. So sometimes this is true, sometimes this is true, sometimes this is, but they will not accept the haqq. So geochronology is the study of trying to determine the age of rocks. Okay? It combines different techniques to try to see, how rocks are aged. And in particular, radiometric dating is trying to use isotopes, radioactive isotopes, to measure, geological time scales. So these 3 up here are the most known ones. Like the radiocarbon dating, I think everybody, lips on everyone. And these are all the other ones that are lesser known to people outside science. These are all different techniques. What are the basic assumptions of radiometric dating? The assumption one is conditions are time zero. They are assuming when the rock is formed, right? There's a certain condition in which the rock is formed. You have to assume that. You have to assume that the radionuclides, right, the isotopes, they are logged in a specific ratio at that time, right? If you don't assume that, how you can build your case? Number two, there's no contamination afterwards. That means if there was, let's say, carbon, this rock was logged in here, there was no carbon leaking into the system after the formation of this rock. And you will see that this is a very difficult assumption to satisfy. Constant decay, that means the decay of the carbon out of the system is at a constant rate. Again, a difficult assumption to justify. So these are some calculations and equations that have come about with radiocarbon dating, but we found out that this matter is not very simple as that, because radiocarbon actually has different reservoirs and gets into the system at different rates and different times. So then they came up with more elegant equations, and these are the 4 types of problems that have been. Oh, I quickly went to that one. So these are the 4 different types of problems that can be associated with this method. And I'll give you one concrete example where this method has gone wrong. Just one quick example, just one. Okay? Remember, in science, you cannot prove the theory with all the experiments, but you can disprove the theory with just one single experiment. Here you see this is called a extinct creature, and it was thought that it went extinct 350,000 years ago. A recent reanalysis had significantly, I highlighted these things, moved up the time and has made some serious adjustments. And what is this serious adjustment? It is now only 29,000 years ago that it went extinct. So what is the difference between these two? Can anyone do a rough math and tell me? That's 320 years of difference. So this creature was believed to have gone extinct 350,000 years ago. Before, according to theory of modern theories, before man existed, Homo sapiens existed. Oh, we say, oops, we made a mistake. It only went extinct 29,000 years ago. Oh, and yes, man was around, Homo sapien was around, and he was butchering them and eating its meat. Mm-hmm. Is that a simple error? Imagine if this was related to religion. What would have happened? How many of you got to hear this news? Imagine if a scriptural mistake is found. I don't think 15 seconds nowadays WhatsApp will drive Noman Ali Khan, before even the day was over, the whole freaking whole world knew about this thing. Huh?